Today's comics market is ripe with new titles by creators who are determined to get their books into your hands. My name is Onrie. For the last decade, I've been making and selling my own creator-owned comics and dealing as a collector in live sales. My signature series, Yi Sun Shin, is the book that cannot be defeated in battle and has over 250,000 copies in print. Now I'm taking comics to the next level and laying the groundwork for my fellow creators to get their voices heard so they can connect directly with you. This is your chance to engage live with top comic book talent and get your comics signed without having to wait in long lines or pay any fees. But remember, we only have a limited amount of their books in stock, so always remember to call it as you see it. You're watching Virtual Signings with Onrie, the live event show. Welcome back, everybody. You're watching Virtual Signings with Onrie, the live event show. I am your host, Onrie Compen, and welcome back to our show on the EXP. This week we have another special situation going on. In all of my, I guess, hustling, bustling, whatever you want to call it, running around, I have been working on getting you guys, there's my name. There we go. All right, I've been working on getting you guys some really great guests, and in order to do that, I've had to take some time to reach out to some of these creators and actually stock up on their stuff. So the last week we had Christy Shin on, and everything that Christy sold, she kept. And we're going to do the same thing this week for this guest, who is somebody who is extremely revered in the self-publishing, creator-owned community. He totally kills it on Kickstarter. He has been going to conventions and totally cleaning house over there as well. And it is my pleasure to welcome Russell Nohelty to Virtual Signings with Onrie. Russell, welcome to the show. You get Russell in here?
There I am. Somebody.
We love the internet. It's just
Yes.
it takes a little time. How you doing, Russell?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, man? That promo, that intro hyped me up.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, that's what we're here to do. It's meant to simulate a store signing and bringing back the convention feeling on a virtual playing field. So why don't we start off by letting you tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I am Russell Nohelty. I'm a USA Today best-selling author. I do novels and comics. The most popular universe that I have is called the Godsverse Chronicles. There is currently 7 novels as well as 2 graphic novels. They were in production on a 3rd graphic novel now that's going to launch later this year called Black Market Heroine, and then the last 4 of the Godsverse Chronicles novels. I also have a series called Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter, and probably the thing I'm most known for is I edited an anthology called Cthulhu is Hard to Spell, which has 2 books, and we're working on the final one right now.
That is incredible. I mean, you're constantly out there pushing stuff and getting everything together. And I got to say, Russell, I probably wouldn't be right here where I am right now if it wasn't for what you initiated. I remember when the pandemic first hit, one of your first incentives was to put together a virtual convention yourself. And you asked me to come on, and it was a huge, it was a really wonderful experience. And I got to make my own connection on there with Christian Gossett, and it's really great. So, and I also had you on Live with Onrie before, and I got to say your history of how you got into this business is extremely inspiring to me. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you actually broke into this business, and then we're going to go into letting you show us some of the books you have for sale, and and folks can call it as they see it. We got Mike and Trish in the house. Good to see you guys. Thank you for being here with me this afternoon.
Well, first, thank you so much for that. It's always such an honor when people say that I had I helped spark something. I still don't know what to say to them except I appreciate it. You did all the work. And the thing is, most people don't do the work. So what I've always appreciated about you, Onrie, is you are not scared to do hard work. You are, I've tabled next to you or a couple of things down from you at enough shows. You are always hustling all day, and I really appreciate that about you.
We're both doing it, brother. We're both doing it.
So I got into this business 2010. I was a screenwriter. So I lived in Los Angeles. I made a movie called Connections, which is on YouTube. It's quite mediocre because it's all my fault. Like the casting is good, the actors were good. It's just like, it's your first movie. It was the thing that that first movie is, and I moved to Los Angeles. I was trying to make it as a screenwriter. At that time, I got in a pretty bad car accident, and so I was in LA. It was in the middle of like the last massive crisis that we had in 2008, which feels like 1,000 years ago now. And like no one was hiring. I wasn't able to get any meetings. I had like a manager, but even we couldn't get in the door. And so he asked me, like, have you ever tried doing comics? I said, well, no, frankly, no, I hadn't. He gave me a stack of a bunch of independent books, like stuff that Devils Do and IDW and Image were doing back in 2008, 2009. And I was like, wow, this is great. Like, how much does this cost? And he told me, and I was like, that's like 1/10 of making a movie. I'm going to do that then. And I made my first comic. And it was called The Wannabes. It was about fake superheroes that make real that got real superpowers. And I brought it out to Comic-Con thinking this was my big break. I mean, how many times have you heard this story before, right? Like, it's like the story, like I'm going to make a comic and then bring it to Comic-Con and like I'm going to get anointed at that show. And I didn't even have ash cans or anything. I just had like an iPad, and people were like, "Can you give me a copy of this?" And I was like, "No." So I literally had to go to the Office Depot or the office, whatever they had, like the thing, they have like the kiosk inside the convention center, and like print off at like $20 for 8 pages, like just like stapled things. I had no idea. And I brought it around and I got roundly rejected because like, of course I did. I had no idea what I was doing. And, but I didn't know that at the time. At the time I was like, all right, got rejected for doing this stuff. Like I used all the money that I had to make this thing, and I want to do it again. And I was like, but if I'm going to do it again, I'm going to make a book that is unpublishable. Like that's like so weird and like my taste that it's completely unpublishable. It's going to be like violent, and like the character's going to be like not traditionally the right character of a hero. And that's when I came up with Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter, because I want him to be sympathetic, but like he was a serial killer. Like he's been in an asylum for killing people thinking that they're monsters. And I thought it would be really interesting if it happened again. So what happened, the book is about a psychiatric patient who becomes a monster hunter during the apocalypse, but he doesn't know if he's killing monsters, humans, or it's all in his head the whole time. And that book actually, when we pitched it around, got picked up. Of course, the unpublishable book got picked up, and we'd only done 5 pages. And so I set out about doing the whole book, ready for it to never like make me any money. When you do independent comics, especially when you're working with a publisher, like you're kind of like flushing that money down the toilet. But I was like, it's okay, because I'm going to do the next one after Ichabod, and like that's going to make me the money. And it ended up, I split with that publisher, and I brought it back to myself, and I was like, I'd done a couple of like really small Indiegogo campaigns, and I've been showing the book around, and I was like, maybe I'll try Kickstarter. And we put the book on Kickstarter, and I've started 5 businesses in my life, 3 of them before Wannabe Press. And in that 1 month, I think that one book made more than all 3 of those other businesses combined. Certainly more than any had made in a month. And I was like, whoa, that's like $5,000 I made like on this thing. Like, can I do it again? And so I started putting more stuff into production and launched another book and another book. And I left I ended up doing this is 2014, the end of 2014. I started my first slate of books, including a couple other books that I bought back from another publisher. And I brought them on the road in beginning of 2015. Middle of that year, I left my job. We got our first table at Comic-Con that July, and I've basically been off to the races ever since, like growing slowly at first, but then our big success with Monsters and Other Scary Shit in 2017. And then from there, we've sort of been able to self-sustain. That's that's sort of, it started with a weird transition into comics. Then it moved to like a screw you for publishing that became like our biggest hit. And now Ichabod we're in production on our 4th volume right now. So it's going to be, we're in production on our 16th, on our 16th issue.
That's outstanding. You know, it's interesting because I've been thinking about this week has been kind of like a reflective week for me because I got a little sick, it's still a little cold, and I had some internet issues. So, you know, when I transform you know, just self-publishing to dealing, it's a very different business model because I realized like when we're publishing, we're thinking about we're investing our time today, but making the money tomorrow, right? When you're sitting there and you're writing and you're producing, it's like front, you know, and it's kind of the same thing with dealing too. I mean, you got to buy a product in advance and then you got to sell it on the back end, but it kind of happens much quicker dealing because, you know, let's say I buy a lot, I can start selling that lot right away. I don't have to wait for the artist to prepare everything. I don't have to, you know, there's no break in between. And it's such a different type of hustle in the sense that, you know, when we're investing so much of ourselves into these projects and saying, all right, this is going to pay off tomorrow, we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, I was dealing with I was doing some freelance editing for this one gentleman, and he had a book that was you know, had a very high emphasis on H.P. Lovecraft. And then after everything that, you know, occurred with BLM, what happened was he was actually working with film producers and everything. They were pitching this, but as a result of what happened with BLM, they didn't want to work with him anymore because of the fact that his book was, you know, about Lovecraft. And, you know, it came to light that Lovecraft was racist and all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of strange because, you know, 3 years ago that didn't matter, right? You know, or even 2 years ago, that no one ever thought about it because Lovecraft lore was just such a, you know, it was such a large part of of horror culture. And now all of a sudden things change, and we never know. Like as publishers, we're trying to chase, you know, trends. But at the same time, it's kind of like what you were saying with Ichabod. You're creating something that is what you want. And then you're hoping it's going to take off. And then you just kind of keep going from there. And you really, it's always just sort of like you're throwing a dart at a moving target all the time with every project. So when it comes to making comics, do you always have the same approach that you do with Ichabod, or are you thinking about different kinds of things? Do you sometimes take on projects that you're not? Do you ever publish something you're not necessarily fond of, but you kind of see it as like, hey, this could be a potential payday for me?
No, that's the last thing I don't do. It's a lot harder. It's hard to talk about this because very few people will sympathize or empathize with this thing, but like it's a lot different when you have an audience that you need, that it's like funding your career, because you are beholden to them. Like if you don't make something that they like, I mean, you can do it, like go and do the thing, but like you're not going to make that money. And I've done that enough times that like, you know, I have a very specific audience, and like I'll make a mystery novel, or I'll make like a YA novel, or like I'll do a weird book that I draw, and like they don't come, or they don't come nearly as much. So like you have to when I think of a universe, and I'm launching a new book series in a couple of weeks, but I can talk about the Lovecraft book with this. What I'm trying to do is satisfy my audience, but like expand to the next ring up. So my titles become sort of feeders to like the next thing that I do. And so like Cthulhu, the Cthulhu book, a lot of people love Cthulhu and Lovecraft. And so those people also tend to love Ichabod. So like by getting a bigger audience for Cthulhu, I then like am drawing people also into Ichabod. And from Cthulhu, then there'll be a bigger ring and a bigger ring and a bigger ring. It's sort of the same way with the Godsverse. Like the Godsverse Chronicles sort of is my biggest ring for novels now. that leads into all of my other very weird stuff in the middle here. And like most people don't make it down to the middle juicy ring. And then I'm thinking with this new fairy tale series that I'm doing, like, how do I service these people who exist, but also bring in more people who won't necessarily know that I write the Cthulhu books or the Godsverse books, but they like fairy tales, or like they like Lovecraft. And so a lot of the work that I do is servicing just things that I love. So I'm working on a series, or more importantly, servicing my growth as a writer. So the series I'm working right now is like not for big public consumption. Like I know it's never going to be a big series. Like this is going to be for like Russell Nohelty heads and like fans. And luckily, if I have enough fans now that if I make something that is like small, at least it will break even. And so I'm like, hey, this will break even. They'll be fine. Like I'm not looking for a huge payday for this one. I just want to do it for like my own knowledge. And so some of my projects are like that. And then I have these big, huge projects like this Obsidian Spindle Saga, which I'm launching, which is like the first book is called The Sleeping Beauty, and then The Wicked Witch and The Fairy Queen and like The Red Rider. They're all based upon like kind of fairy tale-y things, and the titles are there. So like, even if you don't know who I am, you'd be like, oh, Sleeping Beauty, I know what that is. I'm going to give that a try. And so it's a constant struggle for me to make like the big series that people are going to love, and service that, but also then service these smaller series that help me grow as a writer. Because I don't know if you can identify with this. I certainly like a series has a structure. And like, I feel like, for instance, the Godsverse Chronicles, like I came up with the structure for those novels in 2017. I was nowhere near as good a writer as I am now. But every time I go back to that series, I feel like I have to conform to the conventions that I built for myself in this world, so that the next book so if someone buys book 1 and then buys book 2, they're not going to be disappointed because suddenly it's a whole different thing. So even though the characters are different, like the structure is pretty much the same. So I want to grow as a writer, and I feel like I have grown since the first Godsverse book, which I still like, and I still love the Godsverse Chronicles, but like I feel like I'm stuck in that time capsule. I feel like I'm stuck in 2010 every time I write an Ichabod issue, because that's when I came up with the conventions for Ichabod. And even though I can change some of the themes, like an Ichabod story has to have 2 splash pages, an Ichabod story has to have these 2 breaks, an Ichabod story has to have these ones, so that the people who love it won't suddenly be disappointed that the series is something different than what they bought originally.
You know what, before we get any further, I think what would be a great thing for us to do right now, if you can, since we do have books for sale and you are going to be, taking it away, this is an opportunity for you to reach new readers. Can you show us Ichabod Jones and tell us how much it's going for? And guys, remember, this is the virtual signing show. So if you guys decide to pull anything right now, Russell can put it aside for you. I don't know if Russell can sign it for you on the air right now. I don't know what your storage situation is, but Russell will absolutely take care of you guys. And, you go to his website right here, russellnohelty.com, pick up his books. He's keeping 100% of the profit. So we are helping out Russell keep his business together, helping him get to that next level with everything he's doing. Russell, take it away. I'm sorry.
Awesome. So this is volume 1 of Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter. This is volume 2 of Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter. They usually go for $30 in the hardcover. Just for this hour, and this hour alone, I'm going to do $20 for people that buy the books. And so this is not even on my website. You can email Russell, that's Russell, at wannabepress.com, and tell me what the order is, and I will invoice you, because this is a deal I only give at conventions. This is the like signing experience, convention experience, where like you're going to get these for $20 instead of $30. There's a third book that is coming as well, but you can see the cool thing about the Ichabod covers is they're all going to have the same kind of theme. So thematically, you're going to be able to put them on your shelf, put them in. Hopefully, we're going to do a box like a I can't.
I know what you mean, like one of those
slip cases, like the slip cases for all 4 of them.
Yeah,
and you can see like the backs are the same. So thematically, these 4 books are going to work as sort of one big overarching story.
Can you show us a little bit of the artwork inside and tell us a little bit about the production process? Tell us a little bit about the artist and what it was like working with them. The art is sensational. And one other thing I want to say before I let you take it away. I have known Russell a long time, and Russell's production values on all of his books are top notch. Every one of his books, he shows up, and it's serious, guys. Like, you're getting a hell of a deal with what he's offering here. But go ahead, Russell. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. So just to go through that a little bit more, like we use an 85-pound art gloss paper. All of our hardcovers are sewn in. So many publishers just use the glue in with the hardcover, but we do go the extra mile for sewing in, which again is more expensive. The 85-pound art gloss is what they use for photography books. And so really the thing that I love about the art, about what our artists say about our books is that they are like, they feel like they finally got printed in a way that their art deserves. Because so many publishers cheap out on paper, and this happened to me too. Now that I'm in a lot of anthologies or published by other people, like it's so upsetting to get a book and you're like, oh, I thought this was going to be so much better. And it really does show off the amazing art. And this art is Renzo Podesta. Renzo Podesta is an artist from Argentina. And he helped Charles Soule, who did Death of Wolverine, Poe. I don't know if he's like a household name in Marvel now, but
yes, absolutely. We've sold, guys, if you have shopped and watched the Kickin' It show, we've sold a lot of Charles Soule books. You may not have even realized it. He pretty much he has worked on everything, including Darth Vader. I think he kicked it off after, or he picked up after Karen Gillan got the first arc. So this is a guy who's been doing, and he's like a lawyer and a musician, and he's got like 7 other jobs aside from.
He's just got like the coolest life, lit in New York City, doing all of this stuff. And he was doing a book called 27 at Image, which was his second book after Strongman. And Renzo was doing this book while he was doing the second arc of 27, which is 27 is a great book. It's about like the 27 Club, like a musician sells his soul for like the ability to like maybe become a great musician again, but he'll die at 27. There's been a couple of other movies about it, but I think this was the first one. And so he used an art style very reminiscent of like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac or the old SLG books. It is very violent, so I'm going to have to go through.
No worries at all. And Russell, I will say right now that I know one of my customers who would be a huge fan of Ichabod Jones. So you and I are going to have to talk, because this is a book I'm going to want to stock on the Kickin' It show. And awesome. We got Michael Libby in the house right now. And Russell, just for everybody who's tuning in right now, Russell's got a heck of a deal going on. He is selling Ichabod Jones, a book that normally goes for $30. He's doing it right now, and right now only for $20. He's knocking $10 off. He's giving.
And I'm going to do that for all of our books. All of our hardcover books will go down to $20. So we have currently in stock 4, 5, 7 hardcover books.
That is insane.
And I only do this at shows. So this is why I'm doing it here, because this is like the show experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you guys like a little more Marvel style, I don't know if you guys sell any of Juan Frigeri's work.
I'm sure we have. We may not even realize it. I mean, it's so funny because when you're moving through so much inventory over on a week-to-week basis, you're not even thinking about how many books do I sell. You just, it's people kind of go as they see it. But I will say this: you are talking right now to a crowd that is totally into creator-owned books, and they see your passion and what you do, and you're up there, Russell. So go ahead, tell us about this next book.
All right. So Katrina Hates Dead Shit is Juan Frigeri's first book. I discovered him out of Argentina as well. Funnily, in the same town, living in the same town as Renzo. He has gone on to work he did the Son of Dathomir, the Darth Maul arc for Dark Horse, and that got him picked up by Avatar. And now he's worked on like the Renew Your Vows series. I think he did like Renew Your Vows number 7. I think he did some Immortal Hulk. He's done Guardians of the Galaxy. This is his absolute first book. And I know you guys are collectors.
No, of course.
So this book is about a girl that gets sick of living during the apocalypse. She sets out to hell to kill the devil. But I have something special for you. 2 special things, Onrie, today. I went through my archives and I pulled, this is literally the first printing of Katrina Hayes, the last copy that I found in my archives for Katrina Hayes. That I brought this to Comic-Con 2011. It has survived since then, so it's 10 years ago. And this was the very first official Comic-Con printing. I had 75 of them. I have literally 1 left. So you can get the Katrina Hates the Dead for a hardcover for 20. But if you want either of the literal first printing of Katrina or the con exclusive, they're also $20.
You know what, Russell? Set those aside, because if anything, I will pick them up to support you today, because and I'm going to leave this to everybody else too. I'm going to pick them up and I'll resell them if anything, but I want you to put those aside for me. In about 4 minutes, we're going to take a break. So tell us a little bit more about Katrina, if you can. Okay. Can you show us the inside of the book?
Sure. So Katrina is about a girl who gets sick of living during the apocalypse. She sets out to hell to kill the devil. So the whole setup is, the first 3 pages are, it's been 2 years, the first 2 years of the apocalypse, and then it cuts right to Katrina living in the apocalypse, and she's dealing with monsters and demons, and this is her boss who calls her into work, which kind of sets this whole thing. This is her old roommate, Barry, who's a zombie, who's kind of a deadbeat, goes through sort of a day in her life. I love how Wanda's expressions too. Like, just every expression is so vivid. How he
the artwork is sensational. Just even looking at it on the screen, I mean, I can see a lot of passion went into this. This wasn't just like some side gig for the artist.
He picked up a book on Dark Horse while he was doing on this book too. So I think issue 3, and so eventually she finds her frenemy, an old friend, Connie, and her boyfriend, and has to get them to the hospital, and then that sets off sort of this trip across the world into hell and confronting the devil and getting kind of embroiled in a battle between heaven and hell. So it's 5 issues. It was easily our most popular book when we launched. It's not as popular now, but that's because it's 5 years old, and it also launched our Godsverse Chronicles. So this is the book that launched basically the entire Godsverse Chronicles universe, and we'll talk about the other book in that's currently available after the break, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to reiterate right now, because we got 2 more minutes left before we take our break. Every book that Russell is selling right now, he's doing them for $20. Doesn't matter if it's out of print. And guys, this is a big deal. Russell, can you hold out those Katrina books that are out of print? There's a reason why I called these. And if no one's picking them up, I'm picking them up, because we don't know what's going to happen with Russell tomorrow. But I can tell you this about Russell. He is constantly out there producing stuff, and he's pushing stuff, and he's putting it out there, and he's killing it on Kickstarter. Go ahead. During the time that we're on break right now, go and research Russell and what he's done with Wannabe Press. Go on Kickstarter, check out the past Kickstarters he's done, and he is growing. And he's also based in California, and you can bet your butts that he's out there pitching his stuff, and eventually he's going to crack open that door. That's what's happening. And that's actually something I want to talk to you a little bit more about, Russell, after the break, is sort of like what the setup of being in California is for an independent publisher like yourself.
Sure.
And what it's like to kind of, where we kind of see the landscape, because, we're seeing a lot of really cool stuff happen right now with all right, so Trish is calling Katrina, and she's going back to work, so you can pull aside a hardcover, and Trish is one of my biggest patrons, so I will put you in touch with her, and we'll be able to take all that. Call it as you see it. I love it. Thank you, Jerry. All right, we got 30 seconds left, guys. We're going to take a very short break, and we're going to come back. Russell's going to talk to us a little bit more about, his experiences, as well as some of the other books that you guys can buy. For the next 30 minutes, we're giving you guys really sick deals on independent comics. A lot of you guys keep coming to me and you're like, hey, Onrie, what creator-owned books do you have? This is where you go to get those creator-owned books. Virtual Signings with Onrie, the live event show. We will see you guys in 1 minute.
Today's comics market is ripe with new titles by creators who are determined to get their books into your hands. My name is Onrie Compen. For the last decade, I've been making and selling my own creator-owned comics and dealing as a collector in live sales. My signature series, Yi Sun Shin, is the book that cannot be defeated in battle and has over 250,000 copies in print. Now I'm taking comics to the next level and laying the groundwork for my fellow creators to get their voices heard so they can connect directly with you. This is your chance to engage live with top comic book talent and get your comics signed without having to wait in long lines or pay any fees. But remember, we only have a limited amount of their books in stock, so always remember to call it as you see it. You're watching Virtual Signings with Onrie, the live event show.
Welcome back to Virtual Signings with Onrie. We got Russell here. Russell, come on back. There he is.
Again.
Excellent. You know, how cool is this? You know, prior to everything that occurred with the pandemic, I always wanted to see situations like this where we could go on social media and really, see other independent creators kind of like, pushing their stuff. But I really love how we got, trailers from other comic book companies like Scout and, all kinds of stuff going on right now. And I just think the landscape is growing now because, I think one of the things that never occurred to me, I guess, is like when I'm at conventions, I focus on being at that convention, but really there are just so many people out there that don't get to go to conventions that are going to actually pick up their stuff from watching shows like this. And I just think it's such a cool landscape,
Yeah, it's great. And can I say for 1 second how awesome and how much I love White Ash? Like that was the commercial you guys had, and like it's unreal how good that book is. I have the hardcover from the Kickstarter, and it is so good.
We also stock issue 1. just letting everybody know, got issue 1 stock. Anybody wants it. But you can't buy it now. You can only buy Russell's stuff right now. And let's get back to that. So Russell, I'm going to kick this off with a question, and then I want to give you an opportunity because you got a lot of stuff you got to share with us. So you made a decision to base yourself in California. What are some of I'm assuming that's no accident.
No, it's not an accident. I mean, I knew we were going to go to New York or LA, and we fell in love with LA. And so we definitely came out here with a purpose. I was going to be a screenwriter, but it definitely helps being in comics and being an IP farm-ish kind of business to live and work in Los Angeles. Plus, just like the level of success and the level of like talent in Los Angeles is so mind-numbingly high that I always feel like I have to keep pushing myself to even stay competitive with all of the amazing creators that I know in Los Angeles, and I mean around the country too, but specifically in Los Angeles. It's like a mecca for like absurdly talented humans.
That's a very good way of putting it. And I think that where we base ourselves primarily with our businesses and everything is kind of a key thing. And I'm assuming that you're doing what everybody else would be doing if they were in LA and finding some way to bring your properties to the next level, either through licensing of some kind, or do you have any of those kinds of, I'm just curious.
I mean, it's really tough right now because there's so much, the pandemic for one, but there's just been and now there's been a year of no production. So like people's slates are so much fuller than they have ever been before that it's just taking a lot longer to set stuff out. So we had pitches for a bunch of projects that were set to go out at the beginning of last year. And obviously for a bunch of reasons, like that didn't happen. And then the whole city shut down. And so we've kind of been working for the last year behind the scenes, trying to like make our partnership stronger, to get to get the package better. It's tough because it's not hard to option a thing. I'm not saying it's not hard. It's like, it's kind of impossible to option a thing, but like what Hollywood really wants right now is a package. So like they want you to come with like the right producer that is hot, like a hot producer, hot production company, hot director, a hot actor, a hot they want a hot showrunner, and they want it to be this sort of like whole package. And if you're not bringing that, then it becomes harder to actually get something into development and actually on the air, which is the goal, right? Like I'm not interested in like getting a bunch of tiny option fees, which is usually what you see. Like usually these options that you see are like $1, $100, $500. Some things are keeping some are keeping your rights for like years, locking your rights up for years. And so we try to be very judicious, making partnerships with people to pitch projects, but not actually signing any option agreements, so that when a deal gets done, we are in a better position for ourselves, which makes things take a lot longer to announce. But hopefully when they actually come out, they come out swinging. And one of the things that like you have to understand about Hollywood is once someone takes a shot at you, then people are gonna come for the rest of your lines. So like it's happened dozens of times before that I can remember. Is once a studio takes a shot at a book that one of the publishers has, like suddenly those publishers have like 20 options immediately. So we've also been setting ourselves up with the product that once something hits, we can hand 24 books to someone and say, hey, here's a bunch of rest of her library, like go nuts with Ichabod or Katrina or the God's Verse or The Vessel or any of the other books that we have. Plus we developed an app. So like a lot of our stuff is now exclusive to our app, which sort of gives it an air of like exclusivity.
That's excellent. And speaking of those books, why don't you tell us about some of these other books? But first off, we saw a comment here from JD Smith. Shout out to House of Secrets Comic Shop in Burbank, California. Support your local comic shops, friends.
House of Secrets is one of the best, too.
Outstanding. JD, what's up, my man? Thank you so much for tuning in. Russell, I'm going to let you take this away. Tell us about all the other books you got going on. We're in the room with you right now, that small room where the top executives are. Pitch us your books And Russell's giving you guys deals right now. So now's the time to call it as you see it, just like Trish did.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned before, all our books that are hardcover are now $20, the same as our paperback price, which is a deal we offer sometimes at conventions. So we talked about the first half of the Godsverse graphic novels. The other half is this book, Pixie Dust, which is about a pixie who comes back from the dead to seek revenge on the king that killed her. It's drawn by Nick Torres, who also lives very close to Renzo and Juan in Argentina. We drew it to be read like an animated novel, animated movie. So it's about the greatest pixie monster hunter in the world who gets betrayed by a king, goes to hell, signs a deal with the devil to come back and seek revenge on the king that killed her. Nick is amazing. He does a whole bunch of books for Scout. He does Franklin and Ghost. I think he's doing a webtoon now. He does this book. He did our logo. I love Nick, and he's in all of our anthologies. So this is a very popular format in South America, not popular here for obvious reasons, that in a comic shop, you can't, doesn't really stock well in a comic shop.
I will say this, though. The production value of it is really cool because Mouse Guard is presented the same way.
Yeah.
And last year, let's just look at Last Ronin. I mean, that was not printed up in the traditional comic book format. And I think there's something to be said about that. Can you hold that book up one more time?
I mean, I wish that more books were drawn by this because it solves the biggest problem in comics, which is that this is art that there's only a finite amount of ways to letter and draw a page of comic because this is it's a weird size, right? It's just a weird size. Whereas this is a square, it's literally unlimited panel. You have unlimited options as an artist to draw. I mean, just look at the different panel layouts that we're allowed to, that we chose for this book. Almost every page is different because Nick didn't have the same limitations that you have in a normal comic. Whereas mostly, a comic has a top half of a page and a bottom half of a page, pretty much. And you can get more variation by doing a 2-page spread. Because of digital comics, we just don't do 2-page spreads ever. So this allowed us to have a way of I cannot express how much better the paneling options are when you do a square format book. And I don't even think Mouse Guard has a very traditional paneling structure, as the Stuff of Legends. A lot of the books that actually come in a square format don't take advantage of the paneling, sort of dynamic paneling you can do. You do lose out on splash pages don't look as good as they do on a regular comic page because you got it like a normal splash, like a normal piece of art is 11 by 17 or 12 by 18. So we're used to looking at it in that format. So we didn't do any splash pages in this book. But we took advantage of just what we could do with the square format, which is just make it more dynamic and make it move a lot better. And there's none of the problems with lettering that you see in a lot of comics because the artist can design the page however they want to help the lettering through.
No, you know what I was thinking about the whole time you were saying this was 300, because 300 was, if you look at the 5-issue series was originally in a single issue format, typical comic size. But then when the graphic novel came out, and that was an awkward book to read. I mean, it's one of my favorite graphic novels of all time. I attribute everything I did with Yushin Shin to the fact that 300 exists. And, that again is not a traditional format. That is this big kind of, it's more rectangular than, it's even more rectangular,
Right.
And then we look into the webtoon format, right? And that's something that I have to say I honestly look back on and I regret not having invested in the in the formatting of that, because the way we do everything with Yushin Shin, it's you literally have to cut everything up and do it over again to make it fit for the webtoon format. And I think that's just cool that you decided, you know what, I'm gonna try something different here, because that's what I think publishing's all about. Is you as a publisher want to put out the kind of stuff that you want to see out there, and I think every publisher wants to do that. We look at Boom Studios. Ross Ritchie. He's always looking for the kind of books that he knows fans are going to go after. But I think you're in a much more unique position because you're also the creator of these books. So you have much more, you're diving into this and wearing many more hats. And when you make these kinds of decisions, they're not decisions that you just lightly make. You don't just say, "Hey, I want to work in this format," and you got to be ready to accept the consequences of what putting a book out there like that it may have. Even if it's the most beautiful book, it's a matter of how it stands out. So Pixie
how it also feels like it's square, so it doesn't look like another comic. Like it looks like a picture book, and so I'm constantly like, "Do not pick this up if you're a child." Like, don't. Yeah. But like, I think that it's so right. Like, there's a theory of a case that I make with when I make a comic. I'm like, this is what I think comics should be, and this is what I think. Like, this is how I want to move the medium forward in like this next project. Like, I'm presenting what I think like a case, and like I'm hoping that people come along with me. I'll give a great example. Our book, Monsters and Other Scary Shit.
Which is, I backed this on Kickstarter. Very beautiful book. And that's a glow-in-the-dark cover.
I don't know if you can see that glow-in-the-dark. Yeah. But all these glow-in-the-dark. And the art, and I looked at I wanted to do a big rap book like this, just like this. And every publisher I talked to, I wasn't trying to get it published by someone. I was just like conversing with friends and like, don't ever do that. Like because the name's not on the front, like there's, it's going to be hard to stock. And I was like, I don't care. Like, it's like you're making your case why I shouldn't do it. I'm making my case why I should do it. And eventually we just have to, like, I'm going to try it and I'll argue my case. And if I fail, then I fail and whatever, like I'll go and get a job, like whatever. But like, this is, and I've gotten better and better and better at stating the theory of like, and also now I think I've stated the theory that I can do a little more traditional things. But yeah, this was our first anthology, Monsters and Other Scary Shit. This is usually a $40 book. I'm also cutting this down to $20.
That's 50% off, guys. 50% off.
Now you will not. Now you will get a different version. You will get our white variant because it ships better than these ones. We had an issue with we had to do a rip and replace on a lot of covers and with this one, but it's really cool because if you go to shows, you can get it signed by all of the people. There are over 50 creators in this book, including this is the story I drew with Eric Lervold. There's artists from Boom and Onrie, and the cover was drawn by Aaron Alexevich, who did the character designs for Invader Zim. And this led to our most popular series, the one that, if you've heard of Wannabe Press, it's probably because of this series, because it's been so popular for us, is our anthology series, Cthulhu is Hard to Spell. Two Kickstarters, 100, 200, and 330 pages of books about the gods and monsters of H.P. Lovecraft, also drawn by Aaron Alexevich. And the cover is also drawn by Aaron Alexevich, and then featuring just so many amazing artists. This is in full color, and this is an all ages appropriate book too. Monsters and Other Scary Shit is not. While Cthulhu is Hard to Spell does have some things for older readers, like older teen readers. There's nothing that you can't show a 5-year-old. Like, they may not understand it, but there's no blood, there's no guts, there's no sex, there's no cursing. So you could show it to any. So this is my story that I did again with Eric Lervold from the last anthology, and it's books 2, 4, 6, and 8 pages, 70 creators, 35 stories. About the gods and monsters of H.P. Lovecraft. And the theory of the case I made with this was there are 1,000 H.P. Lovecraft books that feature on the horror, but very few besides like monster manuals that focus on the horror itself, the actual monsters and Lovecraft. So these books are about the actual gods and monsters themselves. So you'll see Cthulhu in there, but you'll find all sorts of monsters and fun stories. In the first one, there's Orrin and Numqua, who are kind of the Ross and Rachel of the Lovecraft universe in marriage counseling. You'll see in the second one, Cthulhu is trying to get a job, but he can't because no one can pronounce his name. There's just it's fun, but it's also like going to inform the Lovecraft universe. And for someone who doesn't know Lovecraft's work, it absolutely helps you understand it. There's not a lot. Lovecraft is a very high barrier to entry author. His stuff is it's not easy to digest, and he has a tendency to over-explain mundane things and under-explain really important things. For instance, I think that in the first anthology, I wrote the last story. It's called Azathoth Sleeps. It's about the elder gods around Azathoth, who is the entire universe happens inside Azathoth's mind when he sleeps. And if he wakes up, then the whole universe will blink out of existence. And he wrote one paragraph of Azathoth, I believe, in all the writing that he did in his whole career. And it's not quite fair. It's not, so it's a lot of like, and he expects you to know all of the information that he knows. So like, I'm not saying this is not an anti-Lovecraft thing. Obviously, I like Lovecraft. I kind of hitched a wagon to him. I love his universe, but he is not the easiest author to get through, to understand, or to introduce people to. So we wanted to make sort of a low barrier to entry book that will be fun and enjoyable for new readers of Lovecraft, but also something that huge fans of Lovecraft will also enjoy, showing you different kind of spins on Lovecraft stuff. Some of it is kind of like some of it is a little bit sacrilegious to his stuff, but in a very like loving way. You know, we all love Lovecraft's work, and where some of it is a send up, some of it is very straight. There's plenty of actual horror stories too. But yeah, that is because there's been over 140 authors that have worked on this one, and there's another 70 that are going to be working on the third volume. Usually people know us through the Cthulhu books and or the Ichabod books.
That's excellent. And all of these books right now are going for just $20. Russell's going to sign these books for you too, but he's also giving you, and I love the how far ahead you thought, and set aside space, because one of the things I deal with Yi-Sun Shin is taking up the most premier spot on the covers, so that the artists and everybody have a really hard time finding a place to sign, because I like to make things difficult for everybody. It's all that's what it's all about. But here you've done it in a really nice way. I love how and a lot of these creators go to a lot of conventions, guys. I know, because
you're going to conventions. Yeah, all of them have these like signing pages, and they came because I was at signings with editors, and they were pulling their hair out trying to find where to sign. So. And I will give you, and I'm gonna one up it also. If you order from this hour, I will include the audio commentary for any book that you buy, which is usually $10 additional. So if you want to hear my why I placed stories the way that I did, or my thoughts on any of the first 2 volumes of Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter, I'll include that for anyone who buys from this thing. And I have audio commentary from every one of our hardcover books.
Well, I'm going to say this, Russell. No matter what happens, you and I are going to have a chat after this is done, because I have a few customers who I know are going to want this, and probably just didn't have a chance to see that you're on right now. I have one very, very wonderful customer. She's a huge fan of Invader Zim and Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and all that stuff, and she's always asking me for more of that. And here you are, and it didn't even occur to me, because we're always we're on the hunt for so many different things. We're always looking for so much stuff. But I just realized right now, like, oh my God, you got all this stuff here that I know I'm not going to have any problems bringing out to any of my customers. And of course, this is not going to be the last time we have you on the show. We're going to bring you back because you're just constantly out there putting out stuff, and I have to give you mad props for how you do it. It's not an easy job, guys, to wear all these different hats. And then on top of that, publishing, writing, bringing on other artists, managing everything, and and then running these Kickstarter campaigns. And it's extremely difficult stuff. And then offering you guys really, really sick discounts on these books, because you guys have to factor in all the different expenses that go into it. There's the printing costs, there's the cost of the artist. There's Russell's time. There's all kinds of stuff that gets built into this. So when Russell's giving you guys a discount right now, he's doing this because he wants to hook you guys. He wants you guys just to pick up his books, read them, and enjoy them. For those of you guys who are looking for creator-owned books, this is the best opportunity to pick up creator-owned books, because here we got the creator right here, right now. So, and we got a whole bunch of different stuff.
And also, I didn't even talk about, for that person who likes Invader Zims, we also have a bunch of pins. So this pin was also designed by Aaron Alexovich. We have like 5 or 6 pins from him, and I'm going to give you a special.
Mr. Libby, just call it.
Yeah.
This is the time to do it, and
Awesome.
and totally go for it. Let us know if are you thinking about doing it, or are you going to do it? Just so we can put it aside for Russell can put it aside and
put it aside.
The last thing I want to mention, okay, and this is something I said. I was at Rock Island last weekend, a very small gathering. It was in a parking lot outdoors, and I was slinging comics for the whole day. And the one thing I had mentioned to people, because it was true, is that when people bought my book that day, and this is very much the case here too, not only are you supporting a creator-owned title, but you're also helping a creator rebuild and restructure and keep things going through this pandemic. We all got hit by this. We all lost opportunities to reach new customers. So you're not just picking up a book right now. It's not the same thing as it was pre-COVID. This is, you're helping a creator keep things moving.
And also paying artists. We not only didn't lose any artists during the pandemic, but I actually was able to pay out additional royalties that for artists for all of our books. So all of these books are royalty based, and I was able to make a big payment to all of the artists who were involved in that, and keep and retain all of the artists based on the generosity of all the creators, and actually start this new, like the new book, and keep a new book going that we're going to be launching in September as well.
Excellent. Okay, Russell, we got 2 minutes left. All right, Michael Libby's calling it. Pull those books aside, my friend. We just made another sale. So, Russell, the way this is going to work is, I know Michael and I know Trish. I will give you their information, and you can go ahead and invoice them. They'll take care of you right away. They're very, very awesome people. And this is what virtual signings is for me, is connecting you with new readers. And I think we had a very successful show this afternoon. And again, this is I need to talk to you after this, like on the actual phone.
All right.
Because I'd like to stock up on some of your stuff as well. We got 1 minute left, and then that's the end of our show. But we will have Russell come back in the future. Russell, is there anything you would like to say before we end this?
Go to my website and sign up for our mailing list, and you get a bunch of other stuff. Go to iOS, Android, or a website and download the Wannabe Plus app. You get a month free, and you get access to a bunch of our digital content, dozens of old scripts, audio commentaries, and a whole lot more.
Excellent. And Mr. Libby was mentioning that he's in the middle of writing his first comic, and this whole experience of what he's going through right now has been really awesome for him. And Mr. Libby, once you get that book done, we expect you right here on this show. You're going to be a guest for us. We know that Mike and Trish are also working on comics too. We're going to have you all on here. I love you guys so much. I will be back next week on the EXP, and I will be back on Monday for Kicking It with Onrie and Kevin, the 100th episode of our live shopping show. I will see you guys later. Take care.